Welcome back. This is Tech Grandma. Today, join me on a journey taking on the challenge of installing RAM in a beastly gaming PC. Be sure to watch to the end to see the awesome LED animation of the RAM. Join us as we cover choosing the right RAM for your gaming needs, how to safely remove your old RAM if applicable, proper installation techniques, tips for ensuring compatibility with your motherboard, troubleshooting common issues during installation. One of my sons has an awesome gaming system that he built a couple years ago. It has an AMD Ryzen 16-core processor, an NVIDIA graphics card with 24 gigabytes of dedicated memory. The bottleneck, though, has always been his RAM. He had good quality RAM, but only 16 gigabytes. Watch as he describes the performance issues he's had due to his limited RAM. So, how was your system running before you installed the new RAM?
I would go into, on the game I was playing, which was Cyberpunk 2077, I would go into like a crowded area and it would skip a couple frames and then freeze. The game wouldn't move at all. It would still play the audio for it, but you weren't able to do anything. Trying to open the task manager wouldn't happen. You could move the mouse, but nothing would happen. I've always called that RAM stall, but I don't know if there's an actual term for it. Basically, computer's frozen, but not entirely. It visibly looks like it's able to be used, but can't. So I thought about it, and the symptom I was having only happened when I was in a crowded area in the game. I have a top-of-the-line graphics card, and a top-of-the-line processor, but at the time only had 16 gigs of RAM. And thinking about it, I realized, the computer should be spec'd out enough to run whatever, but the RAM was kind of on the low side. And the density of the crowd seemed to affect it. I was around only a couple people in the game, nothing would happen, but when the crowd was thick, that was when it would freeze. So I went to the game settings and turned crowd density down, and that is just kind of process of elimination. You think about what would handle what job. There are some graphics aspects involved in the crowd because obviously they have to appear visually. Given that the hang-up happened only during the crowd part, I had the technically obvious bottleneck of 16 gigs of RAM. It would be more so that that's like one of the only graphics settings that is handled a lot more on the processor and RAM side of things than it is on the graphics card side of things. And so I turned the crowd density down to medium instead of high and didn't have that issue anymore. So then I assumed, yeah, RAM was probably my problem since the processor was, pretty dang good. I went and upgraded the RAM to 128 gigs, and now I can set the crowd density back to high with no problem.
What kind of RAM is it? The new RAM?
Trident Z Royal.
What processor do you have in your system?
It's a Ryzen 9 5950X, which is one generation ago as of right now. The best Ryzen processor they made.
And what about the graphics card?
It's a RTX 3090 Ti, which also one generation ago best.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So he purchased 128 gigabytes of Trident Z Royal RAM. This RAM not only has great performance, but it looks awesome too. It's studded with rhinestones and has programmable multicolor LEDs. Be sure to look up the specs on your system before purchasing RAM. It's important to make sure the RAM you purchase is compatible with your motherboard and processor. If it's an older system, it may take an older type of RAM. It's advisable to use RAM sticks that are from the same manufacturer to ensure best performance. If you don't know the requirements for your system, you can search online for your model to find out what RAM it can use. You should also use an anti-static wristband when changing out internal parts on a computer. Now, follow along while he uninstalls the old RAM and replaces it with the star-studded new RAM. Most RAM slots have tabs on both ends that you need to push down to release the RAM. This system, being a gaming system with a very large graphics card, only has a tab at the end that is not butted up against the graphics card. So he pushes down the tab and pulls out the old RAM. With the old RAM removed, he moves to installing the new RAM. Notice he is using rubber gloves during this process. It's important, especially if you aren't wearing gloves, not to touch the connecting surfaces of the RAM with your hands. The RAM will be divided into two sections. One section will be larger than the other, sometimes just a little, so you can figure out which way the RAM needs to be oriented. Continue installing each stick module of RAM in each adjoining slot until all four are in place, or however many you happen to have for slots available on your motherboard. Make sure all the cables are routed around the RAM and are not touching any of the modules. Reassemble the case and power it on. If your system does not boot or has performance issues after booting, it's possible that the RAM did not get seated properly. In that case, you would need to open the box again and push down on each stick to make sure it is well seated. If the RAM is seated well, but you're still experiencing issues, it's possible the RAM was not compatible with your system. Once in a great while, very rarely, the RAM will be bad from the manufacturer. Note, RAM may not be eligible for return, so be sure that you get the correct RAM. The moment of truth has arrived. We have carefully installed the RAM sticks onto the motherboard, ensuring everything is aligned and secured for optimal performance. Here are screenshots of the system information after the system was booted up after the install. So I hope you were able to see that installing RAM is a straightforward but crucial upgrade that can dramatically enhance your gaming experience if done correctly. Be sure to watch my next video about a hilarious keyboard hinge install on an HP Envy that went terribly wrong. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments. Bye for now.